Hello and welcome. Today I'm in the tier 10 Japanese aircraft carrier, the Hakuryu, and I'm using these upgrades and commander skills. You have no idea how many times I had to restart the recording to get that right, because I just kept saying modules. Anyways, it's a match on the map Land of Fire, and I am against another Hakuryu. Now, usually, when you spawn near the middle as a carrier, you don't want to go and try to strike in the middle because, as you can see, fighters will be around there. And on this map I prefer trying to strike targets at the start near the C cap, mostly because people tend to be more alone on that side of the map, you see. While the A cap does have a Moskva and a Hipper right there, right? What usually happens is that they have other ships near them, so it might not be as easy to strike them. On the C side we have a Mogami and an Edinburgh, so if the Mogami has defensive fire, it'll be a slightly annoying attack, but you know, it should still be doable, although both cruisers are fairly maneuverable. The enemy carrier does seem to be trying to stop it, but I'll take my risk to try to simply lock the fighter and then go and try to do the strike. Of course it's possible that if I operate my torpedo bombers near a fighter, that he could strafe out of that lock and try to, hit my torpedo bombers. But, you know, I'm willing to take that risk. Okay, so he strafed, actually lost 2 planes, but I did take out 1 in return. So I'll try to drop on this Edinburgh now. She is healing up though. I'll try to do a drop on the edge so that if she runs aground straight ahead, you know, that would have hit. Unfortunately, she turned, and she ended up running aground with the side, which kind of messed my drop up because I wanted to do the drop properly, but my adjustment made it miss because I clicked too close, so I had to click further away again, but that made the planes turn around. Unfortunately, or fortunately, somebody else took out the Edinburgh, so I guess that spotting was good enough. Okay, so let's try to drop on this Mogami now. I'm actually losing the fighter battle, I think. But, you know, it's good enough since we have already taken out 1 cruiser with this, and hopefully we'll be able to get the other one too. Although, let's be honest, the Mogami is really maneuverable, as you saw. From the time that she was turning away, she managed to turn the other way and get significantly into that turn before the drop actually hit. However, the 3 torpedoes that did hit were enough because a Mogami is still a cruiser. So, we actually did take out the cruisers on this side of the map, which means that the sea side should be a fairly safe place for my team now, because the enemy team obviously doesn't have anything else here. So, I guess at this point we should start focusing on the B cap, and I guess once we get C and B, holding them should be good enough, I think. Now the enemy team will most likely try to take the A cap, and it might be worth it to try to go and hit something over there, but right now I'll just use my dive bombers on the Amagi here that has conveniently ran aground. Okay, let's try to set a fire with the first dive bomber and then do a follow-up once she damage control parties this one. Of course, she might not do it, but you know, 2 fires. If she doesn't, that will deal significant amounts of damage anyway. I'm not really been very successful at trying to defend my teammates, but you know, I did get my attacks in. So the Amagi still has not used her Damacon yet. So I guess it's good as it is, and I guess I will try to use my dive bombers elsewhere. I tried to fly slightly further away, hoping that the dive bombers will get out of spotting range, so that the enemy carrier doesn't know exactly where I want to strike. And my next target is gonna be probably the Missouri, since she is the furthest ship ahead. I'll try to do a dive bomber drop first and then a torpedo bomber follow-up. You see, if the Missouri damacons on the dive bombers, then the flooding will deal a huge amount of damage because flooding is incredibly deadly. Of course you can only have one flooding, but still, a flooding does a lot of damage if it goes unchecked. My main worry is that they have a cruiser, the Hipper, next to the Missouri, and on top of that, that's a Bismarck too. And from experience, I know that even just one Missouri with enough anti-air upgrades is good enough to try to ward off some of a drop, and you know, a Bismarck added to that usually ends up being a bit of an issue too. Luckily, one of the enemy fighters is actually at the B cap, so I should be able to do this without many interruptions from the carrier. Now, I'll mention that this drop I don't think is very good. You see, first of all, obviously I didn't lead enough, so the drop was towards the end of the battleship. But the main reason why I think that this wasn't a good drop was because I kept both of the dive bombers exactly bunched up, which meant that they could at most start 2 fires, since, you know, they were going to drop on the same sections of the ship. So if one dive bomber sets fires on them, the other one just can't set anymore. And it doesn't appear that this Missouri is going to damage on this, so I'll just try to drop anyway, since I'm wasting a lot of time otherwise. And you know, the Alpha Strike is still quite significant on the ship. Now I'm not quite sold on this drop though, on this Missouri. Especially since she seems to be slowing down, or something like that. So I only hit for 5 torpedoes. I mean, that still dealt a lot of damage, but it could have been a lot better. And now the enemy fighters are coming around. You see, one of the reasons why starting a damage over time effect on enemy ships is so difficult is because while the enemy carrier might not be able to intercept the first strike, the second strike tends to be a lot easier because you already know where the enemy fighters are going, where the enemy strike planes are going to be. On the bright side though, as you can see by the damage counter, the Missouri is still actually taking damage. And because I started fires, that has to be flooding damage. So that Missouri is actually losing a lot of health right now. I don't want to fight enemy fighters, I would like to fight them somewhat in friendly anti-air, but, you know, can't always do that. If I go too close, I'll be fighting in the anti-air of the Kurfürst, which obviously isn't nice either. Now, I could try to strafe these dive bombers and all that, but consider where or how these dive bombers drop. They're dropping sideways on a destroyer. That's not exactly the best type of drop you can do, so I think it's actually better if they do drop, and you know, maybe I'll just panic some of the planes. Okay, so that fighter squadron went down, and now it's time to select a new target. Dive bombers first, torpedo bombers as a follow-up, because again, flooding does a huge amount of damage. I know that in the past, what we said was kinda the opposite. Usually it was considered torpedo bombers first, dive bombers second. I still think that quite often that is still the right decision, mostly because the torpedo bombers deal so much alpha damage, and floodings are very dangerous, and people want to take them out. Maybe not even just because of the damage, but often purely because flooding will hamper the maneuverability of the ship. However, obviously if you can get a runaway flooding, that is the best one. So I think I made the same mistake here. Again, both of the dive bombs drop on the same circle. Now it might be difficult to adjust for that, and you know, if you don't feel comfortable doing so, which I don't here, I think it's completely fine to do so. It's still something that I think I can improve upon. So now I'll do the follow-up with the torpedo bombers on this Kurfürst. Hopefully I'll be doing it in... I know that the enemy carrier has fighters there, but maybe I'll be able to get away with this. And I think the Kurfürst is gonna run aground. By the way, look at the minimap, look at where Montana is. I don't think that guy is contributing a whole lot. Now, I actually think this was a bad drop, because the Kurfürst clearly had run aground, so I should have aimed slightly behind the Kurfürst rather than ahead, but, you know, it doesn't really matter since the ship died anyway. Okay, so, there is a Moskva coming towards me, so it's time to try to sail away as my carrier, and the Montana is actually doing No, in fact, the Montana is not sailing away with me, the Montana is sailing away in front of me. That is, the Montana is trying to get away from me, get away from the enemy, more than I am. Okay, so, let's check what's going on around here. By the way, as you saw, the enemy fighters were around the ship, right? Were around the ships that I tried to torpedo bomber strike. Yet I got that strike in anyway, right? But the same thing actually happens here. You see, I was busy dealing with my strike, and the enemy, and because of that I was unable to utilize my fighters to the fullest extent. Now, of course, maybe if you're really fast, you might be able to do this better, but honestly, I would say if you're like, if you're not like one of the best carrier players, it's fine if you can't do everything. You should still strive to try to do more, since there's obviously room for improvement. Okay, so time for a next target. I think this Bismarck might be a good one. We're ahead quite a bit right now. We have 5 ships down, they have 6 ships down, and we also hold 2 of the cap zones. Now the unfortunate thing is that my team seems to be pushing. You see, I think that if you hold an advantage... Okay, now it's 6 ships down and both of... What? Our friendly Hipper actually killed our Bismarck because of the flooding. What? So our Hipper literally torpedoed a friendly battleship and she died from flooding because of it. That's really bad. Because I think we might actually need that battleship since we are right now losing the big cap. So, one of the things that I really dislike in many battles is that when you're ahead, you want to stay ahead. And to do that, the best course of action is to get into an advantageous position and then hold that position instead of trying to, you know, get greedier, because if you get too greedy, you'll overextend and die. And, you know, losing too many ships too quickly is a much bigger detriment to the team than simply, you know, not winning as hard. Of course, the issue there is that the game rewards you for your own contribution much more than winning the game. You see, it's very easy to have a mediocre game and get win and get rewarded less than a good game as a loss. Or at least close enough to that. So personal rewards seem really important. Okay, so the next strike target is going to be either this Amagi or this Hipper. It depends on the Moscow and how the enemy carrier is trying to interrupt this. But I honestly don't like this current situation. The Montana is going in, but he's going in against 3 ships alone. And I don't think trying to take such a fight, especially while she's showing full broadside, is a good idea. And there goes the Montana. And now it's a 3 against 5. And to be honest, I don't like this. Okay, so I'll try to use some to try to finish this Hipper off. Hopefully it'll work out. My fighters are engaging the enemy fighters. Now he could strafe out of it. But actually, I think he should strafe out of it, but he isn't doing so, so I guess I lucked out there. I think the Hipper is gone. Okay, good. So now I'll try to finish off the Amagi. But, you know, check that both enemy fighters are around gears, so that's actually pretty bad news for me. I don't think I can do a proper strike. But you know, even if I can land like 1 or 2 torpedoes here, that would be good enough. I knew I was gonna get wait, what? The torpedoes didn't actually panic. Well, this is bad. Okay, so that's really interesting. I didn't kill a single fighter when my fighters blocked his fighters. Not even one. That's really surprising, considering my rear gunners actually did kill a fighter. Also, that's actually a bug that the game has had for a really long time. As you just saw, my torpedo bombers were clearly they were clearly panicked. But for some reason the torpedoes dropped as though there was no panic at all. And, you know, as you can see, I am behind in the fighter game. Well, there goes my ally. While we do still have a caps advantage, there is still too much time to go for this to be an easy victory. Not to mention I need to, you know, save my ship, and there is a Moskva coming in. I'll try to take out this Amagi. I'm not sure if that would be enough though, because with 2 capstones I think the enemy team is gonna start ticking into the lead. I'll still try though. Okay, so I set the fire on the Amagi. The next strike should be able to pick her off. And there is still Moskva here that's getting closer and closer and closer, and my ship clearly is not fast enough. Moskva is actually the same speed as a Hakuryu, by the way. And obviously there isn't enough map to keep running away. Now the Moskva used Damekon, so that drop is going to be a failure, but I might as well drop since the planes would probably be picked off anyway when they started retreating. Planes are incoming, so I use defensive fire there to try to ward them off. And now let's set Yamagi on fire again. Okay, so the planes are incoming. I am showing broadside more or less to the Moskva, which actually is a really bad idea. But I should be able to do a follow-up torpedo bomber drop on the Moskva. I mean, she did flood earlier, so she used Damekon right now. Okay, I was set on fire. That's okay. The drop was slightly too close for my taste. Seems decent. Okay, the Amagi went down. Drop on the Moskva dealt a lot of damage and caused the flooding, so the Moskva is going to flood to death, I think. But oh my god, that was really bad. I just took a huge amount of damage because I kept showing too much broadside to the Moskva because I was afraid to run into the border. And now there are torpedo bombers incoming. While there is defensive fire going on, there's still 1 minute and 30 seconds to go. So I'm gonna start turning away. The reason why I turn away is that if I turn the other way, I'm gonna open up full broadside to the Moskva, which is, in my opinion, an even deadlier situation than this, what I'm doing, since panic. Okay, you can see. I think I'm gonna avoid. I'm gonna take only one. Oh my god, no. Fire. No. This is so bad. Come on, 991 points, 994 points, 900. Oh my god. Oh my god. It's like 5 seconds from a solo warrior. Like, sorry, not even 5 seconds, it's like 1 or 2 seconds from a solo warrior. And the main mistake here was the fact that I showed too much broadside to the Moskva. I died to the Hakuryu because the fires and floodings, but if it wasn't for the Moskva, honestly, this would have been no problem. And if that Hipper hadn't got the team kill, or at least the floodings on the friendly Friedrich, I think this would have been a victory too. But yeah, mistakes were made in this game. I really should not have shown that much broadside to the Moskva, but I was afraid that if I run aground too early, the Hakuryu is gonna get like a perfect drop on me. 247,000 damage. I did get crack, and I mean I got 6 kills, and I did shoot down more planes, but I think that mostly is from the fact that my defensive fire and, you know, anti-air picked off quite a few planes at the end. I do think the enemy carrier played really well, and actually played slightly better than I did, in terms of at least, you know, at least in terms of fighter play. Damaging output, I don't know. But yeah, this was... Look at that, 41,000 damage, and the only ship that shot me with AP, I think, was the Moskva. So that guy got multiple citadels in that one salvo. That one salvo made all the difference in this game. Too bad, and I even sunk the Moskva too with my torpedo bombers, but that one salvo was just enough. Oh well, better luck next time, and yeah, I mean, sometimes you have to learn from your mistakes. Anyways, hope you enjoyed this match, or at least watching this match. I actually did enjoy playing this match. And I would like to thank the patrons on Patreon. Thank you very much for your continued support, Dangalon, and I hope I see you guys next time.